So today's project is going to be kind of a pain in the rear end. Basically, my 7.3 truck here, the 2001 Ford Super Duty, has developed a leak. Now, as you can see, the colder it gets, the more it leaks, and right now it's dripping all over the place underneath it. And I have found the leak, and we'll talk about it, and we'll talk about what a pain in the butt it is to fix that leak. Looking under the driver's side, under the front of the vehicle, you can see the cross member that's coming around the front here, and you can see a lot of oil. Basically what we have leaking is the oil cooler. Now luckily for me, this is not a four-wheel drive, so it's a little easier to work on, but this long tube right here is the oil cooler, and we need to take that off and replace the O-rings because the O-rings are where it's leaking. We'll talk about that in a little bit as soon as we get this off. Now unfortunately you're going to have to drain the oil, and you're going to also have to drain the coolant. And as you can see, I have the oil filter off. You're also going to want to take the little cable here, which is actually the oil heater, and it just has a ring that screws off like this. You want to pull that straight out like that to get out of your way. Basically, this oil cooler is held on by 5 different bolts. 3 on this side. There is one here. There is one that you can see here, and there is one that you cannot see up here under my finger. Those 3 will take this side off, but on the other side is 2 more, and those 2 bolts are the ones that are kind of a pain in the butt to get to. Now we're looking up underneath the front side of the truck. I'm in front of the wheel well on the driver's side, and this is the front side of the oil cooler, and its bolts, those are the tricky one. They're kind of underneath this radiator hose, or on the other side of the radiator hose. I'm kind of flip the camera on the back side. There's one of them, so you can get to this one pretty easy. The other one's on the top, and I'm pretty sure you can get to that from the top side of the truck, but the bottom one's going to be relatively easy. We get a little deep socket on that, back that one off, which is what we're going to do now, and then we'll see how we get to the top side. So you can't see it in the picture, but right around here, underneath this piece here, is that nut. You can kind of work a ratcheting wrench down in there, especially if you remove the belt, and work that nut off, but I was actually able to get to it underneath relatively easy. Let me show you how. We're back underneath the truck again. Basically, I just used a little teeny extension, and I was able to work a wrench up in here and reach up with my right hand and back that bolt out. So maybe getting both bolts from the underside is the better idea. Just seemed to work for me at least. All right, now that you've got the 5 bolts that hold this on off and you drained your fluids, you can wiggle this out of there. It's best to kind of wiggle it from underneath the driver's seat back. It'll come out pretty easy. Just kind of wiggle it out. Here's what you got, and typically what happens is they leak here. There is some O-rings inside here and here, and over time they just get hard, brittle, and old, and they start leaking. They typically leak when the truck is really cold first, and then eventually they'll just leak all the time like mine's doing now. The Dorman part number here is 904-224. I'll put a link in the description. Kind of like Dorman parts. They're definitely an aftermarket part, but they don't seem to be so incredibly cheap that they don't hold up. So this is what we're going to use for this truck today. So basically what this kit comes with is 2 gaskets on this back side that go here, and then there's some O-rings in here. And they're the O-rings that go inside here. So we'll show you those as soon as we take this apart. It's pretty simple. So to split these apart, you're going to see these little nubs that are kind of part of the tube, and you can take a screwdriver and just stick in there and give it kind of a twist, and it'll come out. So as you see there, it's coming out right now. There we go. And then we can take a look and see what's going on here. So this used to be a round O-ring, a big fat ring, but it's square now because it's deformed from over the years. And this is also an O-ring that feels pretty flat as well. So we need to replace this O-ring and this O-ring, put the cap back on, do the same on the other end, and then put it all back together. Now the best way to install these O-rings is just take a little bit of motor oil and just kind of ooze it around the O-ring. You like to wear a pair of gloves like I'm doing now, kind of smear them all around. Once you get these things nice and lubed up, they'll just slip over the top, and they're pliable because they're new. So just work it around. Drop it all the way to the bottom one. So the big one, typically it's green, goes all the way down. And then you get a black one as well. We do the same thing, lube it up, and it drops right on top. Now, of course, you want to make sure the base is underneath here is nice and clean. Now, to get the end caps on, a lot of guys will tell you don't put them in a press, and maybe you shouldn't, but that's how I've done it. I just basically just pressed it just enough to get the O-rings compressed and get the caps on, and then we'll take a rubber mallet and kind of finish seating the ends. These ends are very brittle, which is why they tell you don't put them in a press. I've seen guys take ratchet straps and ratchet around them and then ratchet the strap down to get it to close in, but I have the press and I'm just being really gentle with it, so we're not going to have any problems. The only thing left to do is mount the oil cooler, put a new oil filter on it, of course, change your fluids or put new oil back in it, and put some new coolant back in it. Start it up and see if you have any leaks. That's all there is to it. If you like these types of videos, please like and subscribe. I normally do a lot of build-it-yourself type stuff, but occasionally I fix my own stuff when it breaks. So please take a look at some of my other videos. You might just be entertained.